Rainbow greetings, learners. I am Joel Mark Baisa Barredo, a queer Southeast Asian academic activist based in Thailand. I am also the Executive Director of the Strengthening Human Rights and Peace Research and Education in ASEAN Southeast Asia Program, or SHAPE-C. I am also an Obama Leader for Asia Pacific for the year 2022. I am here to take you to a learning journey of the intersections and interactions between religions and SOGIE-SC in Southeast Asia. Are you ready? Then let's go! Oh, but first, some important terms. Many of you have probably heard about the term SOGIE-SC. It is an acronym usually associated with the LGBTQIA+ communities and their issues. Sexual orientation is about how one is attracted to or loves another person. Gender identity pertains to one's sense of self and experience of being male, female, both, or neither, while gender expression is about how one presents themselves either through fashion, mannerism, language, voice to the world. Sex characteristics are physical traits related to one's physical sex factor, and this can be manifested through the reproductive organ, facial, and/or bodily features. So lo and behold, each and every one of us have SOGIE-SC. However, issues faced by LGBTQIA+ communities are highlighted because they are either underrepresented and/or oppressed in many facets of life today. Now back to the theme for this course. In principle, religions have been teaching us for a long time about moral values and humane ways of living. In fact, scriptures promoted by faith-based institutions have centered on loving and accepting one another. I want to highlight that in Buddhist teachings, it seems to adopt a more tolerant view on experiences and identities related to SOGIE-SC, as LGBTQI+ themes and identities are not actually explicitly mentioned in any of Buddha's discourses. We can only assume that it is meant to be evaluated in the same way as conventional notions of sexuality. In reality, however, with respect to our topic, the relationship between faith-based institutions and members of the LGBTQI+ communities have been complex, controversial, and even polarizing in many parts of the world, including our beloved Southeast Asia. In many cases, religious teachings and practices have been used to justify discrimination and persecution of queer people. Over time, some faith-based leaders have been involved in inciting violence and discrimination against individuals based on their personal characteristics and identities. Verses from scriptures, particularly from major religions, have been used to deprive LGBTQIA+ peoples of their basic rights and freedoms. Worse, they've perpetuated systemic discrimination and inequalities. Sadly, these have been deeply embedded in both social lifestyle and expression of their followers. This has brought about further repression and marginalization of persons of diverse SOGIE-SC. But before we move ahead, let's pause and reflect on what you have learned so far and connect it to your lived experience. What has your religion taught you about LGBTQIA+ persons? And How have your religious leaders treated these issues? Despite a diverse history between and amongst persons of diverse SOGIE-SC, LGBTQIA+ peoples in Southeast Asia in particular have been constantly challenged by more traditional and conservative interpretations of religious doctrines, which have put them at the margins of their respective communities and societies. This has brought about disruptions to the life of queer people who identify Southeast Asia as their home. Firstly, in some parts of Southeast Asia, the capacity and right to love and be loved remains to be a constant struggle within the LGBTQIA+ community. The Philippine Catholic Church, which at one point had led the country to democratization, still holds a strong binary perception on gender identity, which means that only sexes determined at birth, female or male, are recognized. In terms of same-sex unions, the clergy refuses to bless such, as it deems as, quote-unquote, sinful. The Catholic Bishops' Conference was once quoted that a homosexual union is not and can never be a marriage as properly understood and so called. In Vietnam, it was reported that religious groups have expressed their concerns over state recognition of such marriages. Furthermore, LGBTQIA+ persons are still viewed by some as either medically ill, social evil, or a taboo. On a different matter, criminalizing a person based on their identity and ways of expression perhaps has been one of the more severe impacts faced by members of LGBTQIA+ communities in many parts of the region. In Indonesia, particularly Aceh, which uses Sharia as its local law system, the province has a regulation to prohibit and criminalize LGBTQIA+ relations and activities. Malaysia, which also uses the Sharia law in some parts of the country, still criminalizes liwat, or sexual relations between men in 11 states in Malaysia, and the musahakah, sexual relations between women in 13 states. The ability to become oneself has become a constant struggle for queer people, particularly those who live in societies that subscribe to conservative moral norms. The increasing Islamic conservatism in Indonesia has negatively impacted the rights and freedoms of marginalized groups such as women, young people, and sexual minorities. In Medan, LGBTQIA+ was publicly declared by a local official as haram, while corrective measures through forced exorcism are still being practiced in rural areas of the country. Another disturbing information, in Thailand, particularly in some parts of the Deep South, queerphobia has been on the rise, influenced by conservative ideologies from neighboring Muslim-dominated countries. Now that you have learned that harmful practices and norms continue to affect LGBTQIA+ persons in many forms and degrees, now it is your chance to reflect on what you have learned so far. In your context, why do you think discrimination against LGBTQIA+ persons in the context of religious practices continue to exist? What could be the factors that contribute to it? And how can you stop such occurrences? All hope is not lost though. Queer faith-based movements have played critical roles in mainstreaming the intersection between spirituality and SOGIE-SC, and most definitely in addressing particular needs and concerns by LGBTQIA+ persons. They have also filled the void in terms of reinterpreting religious values towards the promotion of equality and non-discrimination in their respective communities and societies. I would like to highlight some of these fantastic and fabulous organizations and movements. SOGIE is a global interfaith queer network that collaborates to provide safe spaces to convene, document best practices, develop resources, and create local, regional, and international strategies for the decriminalization of SOGIE-SC values and LGBTQIA+ persons. One of their milestones was the Silo Manifesto, which raised intersections between SOGIE-SC and religions in the Asian context. In the Philippines, the Open Table Metropolitan Community Church has been active in conducting same-sex marriage ceremonies, helping the downtrodden, and working with communities to highlight lived experiences of LGBTQIA+ persons. The Free Community Church in Singapore has been strongly campaigning for inclusion and rights. They have also been empowering discourses and expression of same-sex attraction and provide support for queer persons. Final reflection point. Now that you have learned about faith-based queer movements, how can we be able to support their mission to spread love and equality through religious values and practices? As you can see, there is still so much to be done in order for our religious institutions and their followers to be more accepting and loving of LGBTQIA+ peoples and their issues. It is important that we promote solidarity and contribute to making Southeast Asia a SOGIE-SC embracing community. Allow me to share some of my recommendations in order for us to move forward. Locating, recognizing, and empowering allies are key to redefining the religious roles of queer people and their rights. We need more safe and brave spaces for faith-based queer movements to promote more inclusive religious teachings and practices. Human rights education must be reinforced to articulate the undeniable relationship between faith values and SOGIE-SC principles. Students like you deserve to know more about this and be able to contribute to solutions. Finally, we need to mainstream love, love, love. We need to empower and enable people with diverse SOGIE-SC to thrive and be able to choose who they want to love and how they want to express themselves. I hope you learned something from our short course about the intersection and integration of religions and SOGIE-SC in Southeast Asia. Your journey should not end here. I hope that you become a vessel of hope for LGBTQIA+ peoples in your respective communities. Be an ally, because everyone deserves to be respected and loved.